Well, I want to start off by addressing the elephant in the room, which is me, a man, on a stage at a TEDxLausanneWomen event. And how I'm a little embarrassed and ashamed to be up here because I'm at a time in my life personally where I believe we need to give as many microphones and stages to women as humanly possible. And men like myself, thank you. And men like myself to take a seat and listen and learn and hear what the women are really trying to say. And it took me about a month to say yes to this opportunity, going back and forth with the TEDx team, sharing my opinions about that, and then them sharing their intentions and the heart behind wanting a man on the stage. So I said yes, honored to be here. Redirecting the compass of masculinity is the story. Who is a man if he is not what the world tells him to be? Who is a man without his success, without his strength, without his story, without his silence? I've been on this masculine journey for about 36 years now, still figuring it out. But when I was a young boy, I was handed a compass of masculinity. Yes, this is me. Don't ask about the mullet. I was handed a compass as a young boy. My society, my culture gave me this compass. And it was pointing me in a direction of what masculinity looks like, what I needed to do to leave boyhood and enter manhood. And it looked something like this. A lot of muscles, a lot of money, success, women. This is the story that I was given. And so I set sail to find out how I could become a man, how I can obtain these things so I can be described as a man in my culture and in my society. And what I learned was the further I went towards these things that the world told me to be, the more alone, afraid, abandoned I felt. The further I went towards these things, the more I abandoned my truth and myself. And what started to happen was I was confused because I abandoned myself and my truth, my authenticity. I started to see the world in a different lens. I had a filter on how I saw women. I had a filter on how I saw men. I had a filter on how I saw myself looking in the mirror. But the hardest part was I had a filter on someone who was extremely close to me, which was my dad. My dad passed away 11 years ago this week, a few days ago. And this filter distorted my reality so much that I didn't see my dad as a man. And I actually looked down on him, and I judged him. And one of the biggest regrets of my life was not being able to clean the filter on how I saw my dad before he was passed away and before he was gone. And 11 years ago, when my dad passed away, and I wasn't able to communicate what he actually meant to me, that he actually was married to my mom for over 30 years, that he provided for my sister and I my entire life. My entire world flipped upside down. I didn't know left from right, up from down. The only person I ever wanted to make proud was my dad. And after he left, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do with the pain. I didn't know where to go as a man. I never felt more alone and abandoned in my life. So I set on a journey to figure out this pain. And I asked myself what the biggest need in the world was. Anyone ever ask themselves that question? Sometimes? Yeah. It's a big question. It's a masculine question. We want to solve things. We want to fix things. We want to be useful. We want to be productive. So I set sail, and I did this, and I traveled the world for 10 years to over 80 countries, and I helped as many people as I possibly could. Thank you. We built schools, we built orphanages, we got clean water to children, food to children, empowered women, education to kids. Did this for a decade. I even went back home to my country and I started working with thousands of high school kids. And I felt like I was bullied in high school. I never fit in. I never belonged anywhere. I wasn't good at sports or grades. And so I worked with thousands of high school kids. I even brought a group of kids here to Switzerland last few summers ago. And what I realized on my journey, my quest for manhood, of solving the world's problems, was the more I cared about changing the world, I started to notice I was avoiding changing myself. And so as I noticed my relationships in my life, the ones that meant the most to me with my mom and my sister, with feminine partners that I had, with men that I had that were in relationships, with my brothers, I was more isolated from them and distant from them, and I wasn't in integrity with myself. And over again, I failed as a brother, as a son, as a friend to people. And what I noticed when I was out of integrity with myself, and although on the outside it looked like I was changing the world and helping a lot of people, I was really avoiding changing myself. And I was avoiding deep pain inside myself that I could not face. So I masked it as changing the world. So how do I change myself? Well, I started with the surface. I knew that there was a behavior that was out of integrity with how I treated people that loved me most. And I knew with this behavior, I could see this behavior, and something was out of alignment with it. But I had to figure out where the behavior came from. And that was a story I was telling myself, a story I was giving people. And the story played in my head over and over again, which created my behavior. And then the third level was an emotion. If you know anything about men, we're not good with emotions. This is the hardest one to crack for most of us men because we have a lot of shame around of our emotions. We have embarrassment. We do not know how to share them vulnerably and authentically and express them. And so we bury them down, we numb them out, and we avoid them at all cost. But what I found out is when I went back to the emotions I avoided my whole life, whether it was grieving, whether I was bullied, whether I was left alone, I realized what was creating the emotion was my beliefs. That I had beliefs about myself, about my worthiness, if I was loved, if I believed I can trust people, because a lot of people have hurt me throughout my life. So I had to really figure out, where did my beliefs come from? Why did I believe this about myself, that I wasn't worthy of love, that I wasn't worthy of getting in an argument with someone and being able to get through it with them? And it was these traumas. Now, we all have moments in our childhood. Some are big and some are little. Some are things that happened to us, and then some are things that didn't happen for us. It was love that we didn't receive, or affirmation that we didn't receive. So trauma looks different for everyone. But what I realized, I had to go back to all of these moments in my childhood and really reveal what was going on. Why was these stories in my childhood creating my beliefs, creating these emotions, creating this story, creating this behavior? What I soon realized was there was an imbalance within myself. And I noticed a huge imbalance within the world, but if I can't figure it out within myself, I'll never change it in the world. So I had to start finding harmony and balance, figuring out that I had feminine energy within me. And as men, we avoid feminine energy. We avoid anything feminine. We are trying to be tough. We're trying to be this energy of like, we could figure it out, we could problem solve. Women come to us for the answers. And when I realized, I started listening to women in my life, things like Kelly shared, not trying to understand or problem solve or fix it, but feel it. And this imbalance happens in the feminine. Some of the females can sometimes step into masculine a little too much, taking care of us, or maybe we didn't take care of them, so they feel like they had to go do it themselves, which is understandable. What I started to realize was there's this fire in this water, that men have this fire energy about them, and women have this water about them. And now we did build a society with fire. We did build a society with this structure, with this fast-paced life, more. And now women are coming into this space trying to understand how to find their own sustainability in it, their own uniqueness and energy in it. But I think we're at a time right now where we're starting to learn and listen more. Give it up for all of the beautiful men that are in the audience right now, please. The celebration of all of the men in the audience, one of the most divine masculine things you can do is be in this group, to listen, to give women the attention, to find that harmony, to find that balance, to find that peace. And so I'm hoping and praying we give new men a new compass, pointing in the right direction. Men can have a compass pointing here, towards honesty. And if men can be more honest and vulnerable and transparent. They can sit in rooms since the beginning of time, men have sat around fires and shared what they're feeling and what they're going through, feeling safe to be okay. So if there's any men out there, I encourage you to be in part of a men's group or to start one. You don't need any special talents. You just need to ask a group of men to meet up and ask how you're feeling and doing. And magic and freedom lays on the other side of that. And so as we try to figure out, there's probably people in our life that we want to change, that we may be thinking about when I'm giving this speech, that the only thing that's ever changed anyone in the history of time was love. And so if everyone can close your eyes, take a deep breath, and I want you just to take one more deep breath. Beautiful. And I want you just to picture that one person that you feel like you want to change. And the only reason you want to change them is because you love them. And picture their face as a kid, as a little child, innocent, scared, afraid. And know that beneath every angry man is a scared little boy. One more deep breath. Open your eyes. I hope we can walk forward in our days and our lives, giving a little bit more grace, a little more compassion, and a little bit more love to the men in your life. Thank you.